parallelogram. Okay, so what is the speciality of this parallelogram, guys? It has opposite sides are parallel and equal. Okay, so for the parallelogram, the opposite sides, pair of opposite sides, they are parallel and they are equal in length. Okay, so here we can say AB and CD are parallel. Okay, these two sides AB and CD are parallel and they are also equal in length. Same thing you can say for ED and BC, they are parallel and they are equal in length. Okay, now if you observe carefully, guys, since AB and CD are parallel, let's talk about the transversal AD. Okay, across transversal AD, I can say that angle A and angle D should be supplementary. We have studied this interior angles property, right? Same way, if you consider transversal BC in this case, E and C will also be interior angles across transversal BC. So their sum should also be equal to 180 degrees. Okay, so here we can say that the adjacent angles are always supplementary, right? Same thing you can observe for A and B also in this case, okay? A and B also will be supplementary. Now, guys, if A and D are supplementary, I started with A plus D being equal to 180 degrees, right? And same way, if AB is the transversal, AD and BC are parallel. So A plus B ka measure bhi kitna ho jayega? 180 degrees, right? So if you subtract these two equations, you will get B is equal to D, isn't it? And that shows us that the opposite angles are always equal. Same way you can prove A is equal to C. So next thing you can say is opposite angles of a parallelogram are always equal. Okay. Now I'll draw lines AC and BD. These lines AC and BD are called as the diagonals of the parallelogram. Okay. And let's say there is a point O, okay, where the diagonals meet. Okay. Now guys, I'm talking about two triangles here. Let's talk about triangle OAB. Okay. And also about triangle OCD. Okay. Now guys, between OAB and OCD, let's talk about angle OAB and angle OCD. These two angles will be equal, right guys? Because AB and CD we know are parallel and I am looking at it at across the transversal AC. So agar ye angle suppose x degrees hai, ye bhi kitna ho jayega? X degrees, right? Right? So these two angles will basically be equal. Okay, x degrees, ye bhi x by the property of alternate angles, right? Okay, same way this angle, okay, if I call it as y, ODC, okay, will be same as angle OBA, right? Because ye do वापस से क्या हो जाएंगे? Alternate angles. Okay. Also, AB is given as equal to DC, right? So triangle OAB will be congruent to triangle OCD by the ASA, angle side angle test, right guys? So these two triangles are congruent. Guys, if triangles are congruent, can I say that corresponding sides are equal? So OA will be equal to OC, right? And also OD will be equal to OB, right? That means in this case, the diagonal, okay, the diagonals of the parallelogram, they bisect each other. Okay, bisect means divide themselves into two equal parts. Okay. Now the next and the last thing to observe here is, guys, between the two parallel sides AB and CD, let the distance, the constant distance, be equal to h. Okay, that's h will be suppose called as the height here in this case. Okay, and it is parallel to the sides DC and AB. So unka length hum maan lete hain, suppose the base. Okay, so here in this case, guys, the area will be equal to base into the height. Okay, so always remember, guys, for any parallelogram, okay, the area is equal to base into the height. Okay, base आप कोई भी दो sides को पकड़ सकते हैं. Okay, उनके बीच में जो distance रहेगा वो बन जाएगा आपका height. So the area of the parallelogram will be base into the height. A parallelogram ABCD has area 48 centimeters square. If the length of side CD is 8 centimeters and that of AD is S centimeters, then which of the following is necessarily true? Okay, you can just try out the question and then resume the video, guys. All right, so what is given to us? We have been given the side, okay, the side DC is 8 centimeters and AD is suppose S centimeters, right? What I will do is, since I've been given the area, guys, मुझे base पता है, I can calculate the height. So what I will do is, I'll assume this height as h. Okay, area is 48 centimeters square. That means the product of base into height will be the area. Base here is 8 and height is h. Right, so what we do is we multiply 8 and h, you get the area 48, and that gives you h is equal to 6. Now guys, agar h is equal to 6, that means there is a right angle triangle here जिसका एक perpendicular side is equal to 6. Hypotenuse तो हमेशा उससे बड़ा ही होगा, right? हाँ, उसके equal भी हो सकता है if the parallelogram given will be a rectangle. Okay, आगे हम सीखेंगे parallelogram की category होती है rectangles. Okay, so this can also be a rectangle जहाँ पे अपना base होगा 8 और height होगा 6. So 8 6 are 48, area ऐसे भी आ सकता है, right? Okay, that means this value of h can be either equal to 6 or greater than 6, right? So it is option 1, the first option, that is the required answer in this case. Guys, अब हम क्या करेंगे? We'll take some special cases of parallelograms, guys. Okay, so parallelogram का special case हम लोग क्या लेंगे? इसी parallelogram में, इसी diagram में, we make all sides equal. Okay, so if you make all sides equal, the figure which you get is a rhombus. Okay, now guys, whenever I'm going to bifurcate the parallelograms or the diagrams going on further, okay, what the upcoming diagrams will do is they will inherit all the properties of their parent. Like for example, the parallelogram is the parent over here. So the parallelogram का जो properties होगा, the rhombus will essentially inherit all those properties. Like rhombus में क्या होगा? All the diagonals will bisect, okay, and opposite angles are equal, adjacent angles are supplementary, okay, with the additional property that all the sides will be equal. Okay, so diagonal bisect होगा, of course, sides extra equal होंगे, and adjacent angles supplementary होंगे, opposite angles equal होंगे, right? Now guys, I wanted to focus on two triangles here. Okay, let's call triangle ABD and triangle ACD, right? In these two triangles, guys, ये देखो, ये common side हो गया दोनों का. These two sides are equal and these two sides are also equal. That means triangle AOC is congruent to triangle AOB, isn't it, guys? Okay, when this happens, okay, whenever triangles are congruent, the corresponding angles are equal. मतलब ये दोनों angles equal होंगे ना? Angle AOC will be equal to angle AOB, right? This angle AOC will be same as AOB, but these two form a linear pair, right? That means both of these angles are 90 degrees. Okay, this tells us what? That for a rhombus, okay, the diagonals are perpendicular bisectors of each other. Okay, they are also of course bisecting each other, but they are bisecting each other now at right angles. So diagonals of a rhombus will always bisect each other at right angles. तो अब एक काम करते हैं, let's assume the diagonals as D1 and D2. Okay, किसी भी एक को let's say हमने D1 मान लिया, दूसरे को हमने D2 मान लिया. Okay, so this part of the diagonal will be D2 by 2. Okay, and this part will be D1 by 2. Okay, ये भी क्या हो जाएगा? D1 by 2 हो जाएगा, और ये भी क्या हो जाएगा? D2 by 2 हो जाएगा. So I'll write it properly. अगर ये D1 है, so this will be D1 by 2. This will also be D1 by 2. अगर ये पूरा diagonal is, entire thing is D2, right? So this part will be D2 by 2. This part also will be D2 by 2. Okay, अब कोई भी एक triangle पकड़ते हैं, guys. You can observe that we have 4 triangles here. 4 triangles में perpendicular sides are all consisting of D1 by 2 and D2 by 2. Right? So any of these 4 triangles you take, what is going to be their area? The area will be half into product of perpendicular sides, right? ऐसे 4 triangles है अपने पास, right, guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, all congruent triangles. So multiply by 4, 2 gets cancelled. Okay, that means the area of this entire rhombus is half into D1 into D2. Right, we can just make note of this here. Okay, for the rhombus, the area is half D1 into D2. Also, if you apply Pythagoras theorem, guys, side suppose हमने S मान लिया, ये diagonal था D1 by 2, ये था D2 by 2. So applying Pythagoras theorem, the side is nothing but square root of D1 by 2 square plus D2 by 2 the whole square. Right. The length of the side of a rhombus is 41 centimeters and its area is 720 centimeters square. Find the sum of the length of the diagonals. Okay, now let's solve this question purely with the use of algebraic equations. Okay, so just now we studied given the diagonals, you can find out the area half D1 D2, and given the side, you can write the diagonals as square root of D1 square by 4 D2 square by 4. Right. So first we write the area equation. Okay, taking the diagonals as D1 and D2. Okay, the area will be half D1 D2, which is given as 720. Right. So D1 into D2 is 1440. And from here, we find the value of 2 D1 D2. I'll tell you why in 2 minutes. Okay. So I found the value of 2 D1 D2 as 2880. Okay. Same way, the side can be found as square root of D1 square by 4 plus D2 square by 4. Okay. That means when you square both sides, you have D1 square upon 4 plus D2 square upon 4 is 1681. Okay. Take 4 common and multiply it throughout. You will have D1 square plus D2 square as 6724. Okay. Now, guys, we know the expansion of A plus B the whole square. It is A square plus B square plus 2AB, right? So for D1 plus D2 the whole square, guys, you will have D1 square plus D2 square plus 2 D1 D2, right? ये हमें मालूम पड़ गया ऊपर से 6720 6724 और ये मालूम पड़ गया हमें 2880, right? Just plug in the values. Okay, you will have D1 plus D2 the whole square 9604. Taking square roots, you get the answer. Sum of the diagonals is 98. Okay. Now there is a much quicker way to solve the same question, guys. Okay. Since we know that this is going to be the side of the rhombus, okay, it is the hypotenuse of this right angle triangle, right, guys? The right angle triangle hai, 41 is the hypotenuse. Since it is the hypotenuse here, okay, this might be a triplet. Okay, do we know a triplet ending with 41 hypotenuse? Yes, we should know that is 9, 40 and 41 triplet, right? So if you know this triplet, guys, life is like cakewalk. Okay, अगर आधा diagonal 9 है तो पूरा कितना हो जाएगा 18. Similarly, आधा अगर 40 है पूरा कितना हो जाएगा 80. So you can verify the area is half d1 d2 720 जो क्वेश्चन में दिया हुआ है, right? So sum of the diagonals is 80 and 19 98. You can just solve it in seconds without even lifting up your pens, right? Okay, so we go on further, guys. We take the second special case now for a parallelogram where all the angles are equal. Okay, not sides, all the angles are equal. For a quadrilateral, the sum of all the interior angles is 360. और अगर चारों equal हो गए तो 360 upon 4, every angle will be 90 degrees. Okay, such a figure, okay, it's called as a rectangle. Okay, where all the angles are equal and they are equal to 90 degrees. Okay, again, essentially, guys, the rectangle will inherit all the properties of the parallelogram. Okay, so you know, opposite sides will parallel and equal. Okay, adjacent angles will be supplementary and equal in this case, of course, special case ho gaya to. Okay, and the diagonals will also bisect each other. Okay, now एक और special case यहाँ पे guys ये हो जाएगा. See, in this case, अगर मैंने suppose length को मान लिया यहाँ पे let's say equal to L and मैंने breadth को मान लिया इसके suppose B जो हम करते हैं rectangle के case में. Okay, so these are two dimensions you need to know for a rectangle, the length and the breadth. Okay, now this angle is 90 degrees. So ये diagonal कितना हो जाएगा guys? Square root of L square plus B square, right? Same thing happens for this diagonal also, right? इसका भी length कितना हो जाएगा? Square root of L square plus B square, right? So what do we have? We have the diagonals of the rectangle being equal, right? That means for rectangle, the diagonals are equal and they bisect each other. Okay. Okay, guys. Next thing to observe is, see, if you talk about parallelogram, यहाँ पे parallelogram तो है ही है. It's a special case of parallelogram. Okay. The height which we discussed here, the distance of two parallel lines here is B. Okay, and the base is nothing but L, right? So area क्या हो जाएगा? L into B. So guys, for rectangle, the area is L into B, right? And if you add all the sides of the boundary to L, lengthwise and breadthwise, the perimeter of the boundary is twice into L plus B. Okay, a rectangular field has a perimeter of 200 meters. What can be the maximum possible area? Okay, so one very direct way of doing this is, see guys, we have been given the value of twice L plus B, that is the perimeter we saw previously. So perimeter is given as 200, that is twice of L plus B. Okay, that means L plus B is equal to 100. Now there are two positive numbers L and B. For two positive numbers L and B, we know the sum, that is 100, and we have to maximize the area L into B, right? That means we can directly apply AM greater than equal to GM, right? Doing that, L plus B upon 2 will be greater than equal to square root of LB. Okay, L plus B का value हम put करते हैं 100. So left hand side will be 50. 100 plus 200 by 2. And now we square both sides. We will get the product of L into B. Maximum can be 50 square. That is 2500. So what is the maximum possible area in this case? Right, the maximum possible area can be 2500 when it is basically the case जहाँ पे L and B both are equal. ये होना guys यहाँ पे L and B both are equal, 50 and 50. This happens when you have a square. So for a given perimeter, okay guys, always remember, for a given perimeter, okay, the square will always have the maximum possible area where L will be equal to B. Okay, it's based on the concept that whenever sum of two numbers is constant, like in this case L plus B is constant, the product will be maximum. The product will be maximum when the numbers are as close as possible or they are equal, right? So L plus B is equal to 100. So L into B maximum कब होगा? जब L B दोनों कितने होंगे? बराबर होंगे, 50 and 50. Product is 2500. Okay, ऐसे भी solve कर सकते हैं इसको. Okay, let's look at the next question, guys. The points 2, 5 and 6, 3 are two endpoints of a diagonal of a rectangle. If the other diagonal has the equation y equals to 3x plus c, then c is, okay, one of my personal favorites, like combining coordinate geometry and geometry. Okay, वैसे like बहुत common सा है ये combination. Okay, let's solve this question, guys. If you want to try it out, you can just try it out. All right, so let me draw the rectangle. Okay, the endpoints of the diagonals are 2, 5 and 6, 3. Okay, now guys, we know that the diagonals bisect each other for a rectangle. Okay, तो अगर पहला diagonal has endpoints 2, 5 and 6, 3. Okay, जो भी इनका midpoint होगा, okay, diagonals bisect each other and they're equal. So जो भी इनका midpoint होगा, okay, the other diagonal has to pass through that midpoint, right? Isn't it? So what we'll first do is we'll first calculate the midpoint of these 2 points, 2, 5, 6, 3, and that midpoint is 4, 4. Okay. Now this midpoint here has coordinates 4, 4. Okay. Now the other diagonal will pass through the midpoints. So substitute the value in the given equation. You have c equals to -8. That's the correct answer. Now if you know Dragon Ball Z, right? If you know, okay. So in Dragon Ball Z, the warrior used to undergo something called as a fusion. Okay. So here the rhombus and the rectangle then undergo a fusion. Okay. When they fuse together, they form a figure which is called as a square. Now again, the square will inherit all the properties of everything we've discussed right now. So a square that we have formed, it takes its root from the parallelogram. So parallelogram में सारे properties इसमें आएंगे. Okay, opposite sides are equal and parallel. Adjacent sides are adjacent angles are supplementary. Okay, opposite angles are equal. Okay, rhombus के सारे प्रॉपर्टी लेगा ये, all sides are equal. Rectangle के सारे properties लेगा, all the angles are equal. Okay, it will take the property of parallelograms, diagonals will bisect each other. It will also take the property of rhombus, the diagonals bisect each other at right angles. Okay, so essentially the square is the representation of everything we have discussed right now. Okay, starting from parallelogram, rhombus and rectangle. Okay, now guys, you have to understand a very important thing over here. बहुत बार से true or false question भी आते हैं, और all squares are rectangles, all rectangles are squares. Okay, let's understand now. Okay, when I say a square, okay, when I say a square, square to derive rectangle से ही हुआ है ना. That means every square is a rectangle. Okay, every square is a rectangle, but every rectangle is not a square. Why? Because rectangle को square बनने के लिए the side should be equal. That may or may not be true, but every square is essentially a rectangle. Why? Because उसके all the angles are 90 degrees. ये definition है rectangle का, right? So for a square is, every square is always a rectangle. Same way, every square is also a rhombus every time. Why? Because square एक special case of rhombus ही हुआ ना, हमने rhombus के सारे angles equal कर दिए, right? हमने rectangle के सारे sides equal कर दिए, right? So for in case of a square, every square is a rectangle, every square is a rhombus, but the reverse may not be true. Okay, so every rhombus may not be a square. Okay, guys. Similarly, you can say that every rhombus is essentially a parallelogram. Okay, why? Because वो derive वहीं से हुआ है. Every rectangle also is a parallelogram because वो derive वहीं से हुआ है. But every parallelogram is not a rhombus. Every parallelogram is not a rectangle. Okay, so you can imagine this, guys. It's a one-way traffic. आप नीचे से ऊपर जा सकते हो. Every square is a parallelogram. Every square is a rhombus. Every rhombus is a parallelogram. Every rectangle is a parallelogram. But the reverse may not be true. Okay, there are special conditions. Okay, parallelogram के sides equal के तब rhombus बना है, parallelogram के angles equal के तब जाकर rectangle बना है, right? So always remember this, guys. यहाँ पे it is just one way traffic. You can always go from bottom to top, but you can't go from top to bottom directly. Okay.